you're playing right now?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely consider that. And, again, I think, it's a physical sport, and just the perspective I have on that is, you never know kind of when, that moment is, just because it's a contact sport and there's a lot of training that goes into it. And again, it has to be 100% commitment from myself to keep doing it.
Well, Father Time isn't catching up to our guy, Brian Westbrook. Brian, you buying Brady can play till 45 and beyond?
Well, Jenna, first of all, I was limping out of the bed this morning after getting a whole 8 hours of sleep. So Father Time is slowly catching up with me. Whatever Tom is taking or using, I need to be able to do that. But I absolutely think that he can. And I know Brandon will probably talk about his fitness regimen, but I love the fact that Tom Brady is pushing the envelope as far as what people say you can do with your body, your ability to play at an advanced and late age. I love the fact that he continues to play well at the top of his game, even at a late age. So I appreciate that. But I also think the NFL is doing Tom Brady a lot of favors. I mean, they have made rules that you can't even touch the quarterback anymore. I mean, think about this. 610 attempts, second most attempts in the NFL Tom Brady had, and he was only sacked 21 times. He was only sacked 21 times on the second most attempts in the NFL. That's impressive. That kind of speaks to not being able to touch the quarterback, but also he was able to throw 40 touchdowns, so he was productive. I love the fact that he's pressing the envelope here. I think he continues to play, and if he can play at this level, Super Bowl level, then why would you ever stop?
Yeah, man, we could talk about this for an entire hour. I absolutely love this. I believe he can play into his mid-40s. He can maybe go beyond. This is the modern athlete. There's modern science, technology. There's so much when it comes to how we recover, how we prepare today compared to the guys in the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. So for me, I'm a guy that played 13 years. I traveled to Dusseldorf, Germany to get Regenicon by Dr. Peter Willing. Those were the famous Kobe Bryant shots. I traveled to London to get stem cell treatment for Wellbeing International. So guys are more aware now. But Tom Brady said something very interesting. He said 100%. I got to commit 100%. Because most guys are making the investment, but they're still going out a couple times throughout the week. They're still, partying. They're still having some drinks. Tom Brady is not doing that. Tom Brady's in bed at 9. There's a few reasons why I believe he can extend his career into his mid-40s, so 45 plus. Let's look at it. The first thing is his position. Brian, you just talked about it. He's a quarterback. If we were talking about a running back, then we probably wouldn't have this conversation. B, you just talked about getting out of bed today after 8 hours of sleep and still limping. The pound and the wear and tear on your body is different than a quarterback. The second thing we got to highlight here is this. Toughness. Look at Eli Manning. Look at Peyton Manning towards the end of their career. If you just blew on them, they were jumping on the ground. They were throwing the ball. So Tom Brady is still sitting in the pocket and letting Mike Evans and Gronkowski and AB get down the field and letting it go and still getting hit in the mouth here and there. And the last thing is the things that you guys don't see. And these are the things that LeBron James and the Tom Bradys of the world and the Serena Williams of the world really lean into, and we're wondering why are they able to perform at this level so late in their career. Train. It's totally different how they train now. Back in the day, it was just muscular. Let's go lift as hard as hard as we can and as heavy as we can. But now it's more about the neuromuscular system, making sure everything's turned on. Fuel, macronutrients, micronutrients, supplementation is key. Mental fitness as a professional athlete, you got to be on both ends of the spectrum. You got to be able to deal with a little bit of depression. You got to be able to deal with some anxiety while you're performing at a high level, because they both come at you that way. And the last two things is recovery. This guy's sleeping 8-9 hours a night. He's getting it in there. And then this team, this TB12 method, Nick, this is a billion-dollar business. $62 billion business in supplements, $36 billion in fitness. So for him, the longer he plays, the better his business does.
Right, and he's got to keep being a forward-facing spokesperson for TB12 because the latest reports, quarterly reports, show that House of Athlete is really taking a lot of that market share, particularly in the Florida area. TB12 on the way down prior to this year, House of Athlete on the way up. So, I mean, this is, while it's good for Tom and his brand, you know, there's a little conflict here, which is why I compliment Brandon for being able to be so objective, because I would just be trashing it if I were Brandon, talking about the, you know, scurrilous stories in the media about the TB12 method, why you should just go to South Florida and do House of Athlete. But Wilds, here's what I find so fascinating. Because, listen, the numbers were undeniable prior to this year. In 2017, he was a league MVP. In 2018, all of his numbers went down, and he was a good, not great quarterback. In 2019, all of his numbers went way down, and he was a league average quarterback, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. And now in 2020, he's back up to 2017 levels almost when he won league MVP, right? So if he can just maintain anywhere close to this, he can keep playing. I think everyone agrees with that. Here's what I find fascinating, Wilds, that he wants to. And Brandon mentioned LeBron and Serena. LeBron obviously wants to keep playing, but he wants to do it while also doing a lot of other things. Making movies, making television shows, dabbling a bit in the political space, being, you know, full throat in the social justice space. And because he's the greatest athlete ever, he's able to do it all and still perform at a high level. Serena was winning multiple majors every year. Serena then understandably wanted to spend more time as a mother, spend more time with her other businesses, and while she still competes, and I believe is the greatest female athlete ever, and some would argue the greatest athlete ever, no qualifier needed, her performance has dipped. Brady seems to show no interest in anything else. Brady seems to show no interest in diversifying outside interests aside from TB12, which is related to the football. Brady moved his family from either the Northeast or Los Angeles, where they've split their time, to somewhere they'd never been, to North Florida, to, you know, arguably the third most livable city in Florida, because that was the best place to win. And now he's like, no, I think I might do this another 2-3 years. I find that fascinating, how maniacal in his focus he is, Wilds. Like, and I don't say that in a negative way. I'm really fascinated by it because that I don't remember us seeing in anyone else.
Yeah, you know what I think it is, Nick? I think it's a combustible mix of greatness and underdog. And you never see those things hit together. And that's why LeBron made popular Washed King. Even though he's got, you know, the chosen one on his back, he's like, why? I need to do that. I'm an underdog, even though I'm great. And we saw in the Patriots when Julian Edelman would go up to him in games and yell at him, you're too old. So the fact that he's gotten older and older and older, and he's at the same time the best ever and an underdog, I think it's a cycle of motivation that will keep him going to 45 and beyond, Jenna.
That's really good. That's really good.
45.
It's a great point,
All right. Well, which